Your industry is a lot better on a lot of things connected to forest than I will ever be.
I see huge opportunities for packaging industry. I see huge opportunities for innovative developments.
To influence the political scenery and others in a good way, in a positive way.
Is to bring the industry around a common purpose, a shared vision, to keep industry really united.
We need one voice in Europe. We need our members and FEFCO, of course, and also the national associations to speak with one voice.
I'm John Swift. I'm Director of Regulatory Affairs for SCA Packaging, and I have the honour to chair FEFCO's Regulatory Affairs Committee. This is quite a challenging role because regulatory affairs at the European level is complex, and we have to find our way through this. So we have a committee of a small number of association and company experts who work with me to deal with these challenges, to understand them, to try and put them in simple forms, and as necessary feed them through to the FEFCO members and down to the national associations and their members where it's needed. This whole area can really be seen as something of a labyrinth.
We have 4 questions we need to answer to get out of the labyrinth. 1. How do we position the corrugated industry in the labyrinth? 2. How can we as FEFCO play an active role? 3. How does FEFCO cooperate with its stakeholders and the supply chain? 4. How does FEFCO defend the corrugated industry? 1. How do we position the corrugated industry in the labyrinth?
The more people I have time to speak with before I take and decide on legislation, the better the legislation will be. I don't want a political situation where I just lock myself in my room and then suddenly walk out with this brilliant idea. So therefore I think the business industry, the business community are actually in many occasions the ones that know the substance best.
Let's take a recent example. The Resource Efficiency Roadmap aiming towards an economy which is expected to do more with less resources. So what are the roadmap milestones in the short term?
Yes, my main priority is to get a much higher priority for this issue. People just do not realize themselves how urgent the scarcity of resources is, that businesses are getting in trouble for getting the right supply of resources, and that we're on the other hand destroying the environment by looking for the last resources we can find. So giving it a very, very huge sense of urgency is my main objective.
The corrugated industry can do more with less, and we can prove it with our 3 best indicators. Corrugated packaging is up to 100% recyclable. It is 100% renewable and is 100% biodegradable. But what happens if the forest-based industry as such is not seen as a sustainable industry?
We talk a lot about sustainability criteria for biofuel, for biomass, but I ask myself today, do we have any sustainability criteria for oil? And the problem is if we put so much love for forest into sustainability criteria, for example, for forest, so that it will be more economically sound to use oil that has no sustainability criteria at all, then of course we might think that we help the forest, but in reality we're actually deploring the forest and the industry that lives from forest.
We need to prove that our industry is a sustainable industry, because it's not always the case today. How are the forest-based industries perceived?
A lot of people tend to think of forestry as something small or something old and not a part of the innovative future.
Our industry plays a major role by constantly innovating and by producing fit-for-purpose pack designs which allow the corrugated business to also fit with the European expectations.
So I have a strong belief in new technology and new developments, and that is maybe also something that your industry can work on.
FEFCO must speak with one voice. FEFCO deals with the issues that will have an impact on the industry and has to make its contribution. 2. How can we as FEFCO play an active role? By monitoring and filtering the relevant issues, we must be alert and react by taking voluntary initiatives. This is what the industry has done with the industry guideline. Consumers expect that whatever goods they purchase are produced in compliance with EU legislation, especially when it comes to food and its packaging. Therefore, producers of paper and board take care to deliver packaging solutions that always meet the highest standards. Not only because they take their job seriously, but also because producers, manufacturers, distributors and retailers increasingly demand evidence of compliance with EU law. So, why is the industry guideline needed? So far, the European Commission has not proposed a specific measure to cover paper and board materials. As there is no specific regulation on paper and board product, there is no recognized method of demonstrating its compliance with EU law. There was no EU-specific measure, like that which exists for some other packaging materials, for P&B products. For that reason, the P&B industry felt it was necessary to draft some industry guidelines to guarantee a good standard in the industry and to be able to take corrective actions as science develops. Sometimes it is a matter of advising before a proposal is launched by proving how a simple box made of corrugated can play an important role to prevent food wastage.
Concerning food, I see huge opportunities for packaging industry. I see huge opportunities for innovative developments like nanomaterials, where the expiry date is not necessary anymore because your packaging tells you when your milk is still good to drink or not.
Corrugated packaging protects around 75% of our packaged goods in transit. We have to raise our voice in a Europe where 25% of food is thrown away, equaling about 76 kilograms per person per year. The efficient use of food packaging can play an important role in preventing food waste by reducing a product's overall environmental impact. The sustainability of a product is not a matter of quantity, but a matter of quality.
There's no one-size-fits-all. So for corrugated, in a few cases it's good to have less packaging. In other cases it might be even good for the environment to have more packaging.
It's important to play an active role when the legislative procedures start and take the right decisions.
That's equally important is actually not to regulate it to death.
3. How does FEFCO cooperate with its stakeholders and the supply chain? Why does the paper industry need different associations at European level?
I suppose that there are good historical reasons based on the differences between producing and converting. There are differences. Producing is the very start of the whole thing, the start of paper making and the processes involved in it, whereas converting is closer to the market and it's about the functions and the uses of paper. And that precisely lies the value of cooperation, bringing those understandings, mutual understanding together in order to reinforce the positioning of the industry, to improve and benefit from the commonalities. CEPI is very much about regulatory risks that affect the paper chain, and FEFCO and SITPA are much more, as I said, specificities closer to the market with different direct stakeholders. It's about products.
Why do we need an umbrella association for the paper and board converters?
Well, it's true. SITPA is an umbrella organization for many specialized branch organizations. and also some national organizations. And I think more than ever there is a need for a common platform to communicate on certain issues.
What is the added value of SITPA?
We need to have a common message and to influence the political scenery and others in a good way, in a positive way.
FEFCO relies also on the effectiveness in finding common paths with the supply chain, stakeholders and other packaging associations in order to guarantee a balance and common interests. FEFCO contributes by bringing the corrugated industry closer to the supply chain. FEFCO monitors and anticipates before any conclusion is made. FEFCO has contributed to the recognition of packaging's positive role in protecting food. Changing the perception of packaging as something positive. Isn't it a good example of how all the packaging materials can closely work with the same objective? Together, we have managed to draw some solid conclusions with calls to action for retailers, policymakers, and everyone in the packaging supply chain, including the general public. It's a question of gaining allies. 4. How does FEFCO defend the corrugated industry? FEFCO can not only remain active and cooperative. Sometimes it is also a matter of defending the interests of the business strongly by analysing the state-of-the-art of different issues and combining FEFCO's different roles. Let's take 3 examples. 1. We have to find how, where and when to challenge existing legislation. Is reuse better than recycling?
Well, there is no one-size-fits-all. So what is good for one material is not necessarily good for another material as well. On the other hand, in general, reuse is better than recycle because you use energy and resources for recycling. So I do believe that the waste hierarchy that we have, that it still stands. I do propose to get rid of the landfill as final disposal. We seriously have to get rid of landfilling.
If a substance used in the production of corrugated board is at stake, FEFCO will act when appropriate through voluntary agreements. We'll cooperate with stakeholders by providing information. Or we will join forces with our national associations in a very coordinated manner. It is also in our interest that all packaging materials receive equal treatment. If the institutions are not alerted, FEFCO has to push them. We are in a labyrinth. Let FEFCO be your guide.